Hi everyone, my name is Natalie Wilson. I'm part of the PAF 420 class as all as you. Hi class, so my name is Natalie Wilson and today I will be talking about Module 12 and the article I was assigned is called Why I'm Sorry is Still the Hardest Word, and this was published by the New York Times. So let's just jump right into it. So, the overall theme of this article is while apologies are meant to address the issue or problems that may have occurred by an individual or an organization, the delivery does not always deliver in the way that is meant to be apologetic or sincere. So, the whole premise of this article is talking about the words I'm sorry and how the delivery of those words are not very easy to do. And that is very true sometimes. And so this article really dives into the art of companies and individuals really talking about apologies after incidents have occurred. We've seen a lot of public apologies from airlines after a passenger is thrown off of a flight, politicians. We see Donald Trump and his press team give public apologies quite often. And so this article really touches about how sometimes in those apologies, they don't really deliver. And so this question is, why is delivery so hard? So one of the big key components in this article is it's hard to admit that you were at fault. So we have, as human beings, have a problem admitting that we're the problem. And so according to this article, this is a really big issue of why saying I'm sorry is really hard. And that kind of dives back into accountability. So saying that I was held responsible is a big step for any person, especially when you have a large company or you represent a large amount of people. It's really hard to be accountable for your actions when you say something maybe you didn't mean, but 1,000,001 people heard you. And so it's kind of hard to hold yourself accountable and say, yes, this happened, and I'm sorry that it did. Going off script. So, in a lot of times that these issues come or these problems come up, and someone or an organization steps up to give a formal apology, sometimes people ask questions. It's kind of like an interview style, and they kind of did go off of script of what they were told to say or what they meant to say, and that kind of can start another problem. But a lot of these big apologies come from people not saying things the way that they were meant to be said. And so, kind of talking about the apology itself and the actions of what you're apologizing for can sometimes mean that you just simply went off script of what you're meant to have said. And so, one of the final key aspects that this article talks about is being proactive. So, according to the article, a lot of universities, I'm sure ASU is one of them, where a lot of business students are being taught the art of an apology. And so, one of these things that is really important to students is making sure that you are constantly being aware. And this goes for any organization or politician or anyone that it has a formal apology to. One of the biggest things that this article talks about is being proactive, and as soon as it happens, you need to work. You have to work to get back to where you were and to get on top of the issue right away so it doesn't spiral out. So moving on, one of the people that I think we can all agree really encompasses this entire thing of an apology and it being really, really hard and maybe not delivering as well as we wanted it to is former US President Bill Clinton. So a little bit background on President Clinton. He was his first presidential term was in 1993 through 1997. And then his second term was from 1997 to 2001. So he was actually impeached in 1998 for perjury and obstruction of justice. He was then acquitted by the Senate in 1999, so he was able to remain in office. And President Clinton is the one of two presidents that have ever been impeached by Congress. So as a lot of us know, President Bill Clinton was put on trial for an alleged affair with his intern, Monica Lewinsky. And so he had to come onto the national stage as the president of the United States, and he denied these allegations. And we all know I did not have sexual relations with that woman. And it's still kind of up in the air whether they did or they did not. For the most part, a lot of people believe that they did have an affair during his presidency. But that just kind of goes back into the accountability part of this article of saying, yes, I did. And although I am risking the presidency, at least he would have been honest. And so I just think that President Clinton in general kind of encompasses this message of an apology is hard and being accountable is hard. But I think at the end of the day, you do have to be accountable for your actions, and you do have to have a genuine apology, which at the end of the day, I don't think he apologized for what he allegedly did. And whether it did happen or it didn't, it's still something to say to the American people, I'm sorry that this is happening. But I don't feel like that message was ever given to the people. And I feel like there's still the what if or did they question. But I just overall think that President Clinton really does give this article, it's a nice analogy. When I want to talk about this article, I automatically thought about President Clinton. So I just thought that he was a good fit for this article. So my own personal thoughts on this article is I definitely think that this article is something that a lot of people need to read. And I don't think that this just implies companies or politicians or CEOs or anything like that. I just think that a lot of people need to read this article for themselves. And so, of course, no one enjoys an apology. No one wants to have to apologize for anything, but they are necessary to mend relationships, to mend trust, which is really important in any type of relationship, whether it be from a politician to the people or from an organization to its consumers. I just think that overall this is something that people need to work on, and the whole art of an apology it's not a science, but at the end of the day, you do have to hold yourself accountable for your actions. And I think that this is a big problem because when people or companies step up and say, I'm sorry that this happened, it's hard to think that what if they're not being genuine? A lot of people expect an apology when something major happens. They're like, oh, the countdown is ready. What are they going to say about it? Some sort of explanation. But at the end of the day, I don't think that all these apologies are genuine. To me as a consumer and as someone who's represented by a lot of people, I think that that's really troublesome. But those are just my own personal thoughts. So how does it affect my generation? So I think personally my generation has kind of stepped up and we are holding other people accountable for their actions. So I definitely think that my generation has a voice, and a very strong one at that. I've heard a lot of older people say, your generation's going to be the one to call people out on their stuff. And so I definitely think that that's true. And so I think that we will be seeing a lot more formal apologies from people because people do call them out on when they do something wrong. Social media and filming, all these airplane incidents is one of the big things I can think of standing up to an injustice. And so I think that this does affect my generation, as we are going to be the ones wanting apologies. And that kind of goes into my generation's challenges the status quo. And so I think that when these apologies do come out, I do think that we are going to be the ones to stand up and say, you know what, I don't think that was genuine. I think you're just kind of trying to cover your story. But I definitely think that my generation is going to be a force of nature when it comes to the art of an apology. How does this affect me personally? So as an aspiring politician, I do have to say that this is something that I hope I never have to do, give a formal apology, just because I feel like you can never be sorry enough for a big incident, or I don't think that your message that you really want to give out is sometimes never well received. And I think, to me, that's a very scary thing. But I definitely don't I definitely do not look forward to that if I have to. But I definitely think that it pays to be well prepared and educated. And so I think a lot of these apologies you see a lot of misguided information, and you definitely don't know what the truth is. A lot of people come out with these stories of, oh, this happened, and then 2 days later, actually, this was not true. This happened, and a lot of conflicting stories. And so I think that if I ever had to encounter this situation, I would definitely want the full picture and to tell nothing but the truth. And I definitely think that's hard today, when you have a lot of outside people telling you what you should and should not say. And so working on the behalf of others is something that I take really near and dear to my heart as an aspiring representative. I definitely think that you do have to represent the people well. And so I definitely think that this is something I'm going to have to work on myself. And so that's about it. Well, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will hopefully get to see all your other